Oh, that was sudden. It wasn't a dissolve. It was a cut, wasn't it? Oh well. I came very close to not turning on the microphone. So let's look on the bright side. Let's look what do we have in the plus category. We know what we got in the minus category. Those are stacking up, aren't they? But wow. So hey everybody. A lot of Clay and Steel is out there. How's it going? And Darla and Mark and Albert and Mark again and Netreamer and Reed. It's the sorry Brian, it is the Wham Club Tropicana sing along. I don't know what that means, Reed, but it sounds like you have other plans. Like you have plans that outweigh being here with me, but yet you're here. JD, earn more sessions by sleeving. What? I think I missed part of this. I think I missed the setup to that one. Participation trophies for all. That's right. The Charlie Sheen of winning, Darla. And Denise. Eric Knisley. Eric is located in the house behind me. You may know him from such cousins of yours as Kim Anderson. Hey, Eric, so yeah, I was going to maybe tell a little story. I'm drinking some wine that Kim picked up at the Weaver Street Market for me yesterday, I think. Can anyone keep track of the days? I mean, first of all, that has never been one of my fortes, ever, in the best of times, which these aren't. I've never been good at placing things in time. Like, to me, to some, I know some people whose memory for, like, oh yeah, you mentioned a movie, it's like, yeah, that was the spring of '89. Really? Okay, well, I mean, they could be totally lying. I just take it on faith that he's right. But say my friend Jim is really good at that, and I have no ability. To me, the past, like I think to him, like it's laid out. There's like a calendar behind him, like that Carl Sagan calendar of the universe, the age of the universe, and all. But for me, it's like the past and possibly the future is just like I just picture an ocean and events are just bobbing up and down. They're mostly submerged, but sometimes they come to the surface and you remember them a little bit, but they stay submerged. But there's no order to it. It's like whatever, February of '87 is over there and January of '87 is over there, but right next to March of 2018. I don't know. Once you get past like a week or so, it's all kind of jumbled up, isn't it? Is that just me? But Eric, somehow that was relevant to you that I was gonna tell a little story of the barter culture. I had trouble with that word. I was pronouncing it like the president might. Barter. I was gonna say a little something about this new barter society that I don't know about you, but I'm living in. Albert, I know that you already sort of live in it. In a cool way. Yeah, the neighbors. See, Eric, I hope you don't have, like, it's too late. You've been outed to this small group of people anyway. But Albert and Kim, who is Albert's cousin, you know, I don't know if I officially told you this story, but because of Facebook, oddly enough, I'm friends with my next door neighbor, Kim, who lives in that house with Eric. And somehow that started to sound like a nursery rhyme or something. But, and then my old friend Albert is in Texas somewhere. And because I'm friends with both, they started seeing each other's names, and Albert's last name is unusual. Kim's is a fine last name, but it's just a little more common. And turns out they're cousins. Like, she knew that she had some Nuriks in her family, and they turned out to be the same Nuriks that he had in his family. So, you know, how many Nuriks could there be? Maybe there was a Texas connection. I don't know the details. All I know is that it turns out one of my oldest friends is distantly related to my next door neighbor, who I'm very friendly with. And we have this barter culture thing going on. And I'll tell, yeah, Albert, Eric. Yeah, the neighbor. It's like, look, on this show, we already have characters. There's me, but there's other characters. Every once in a while, Eric should not, if I stream a little earlier on a different schedule, maybe Eric will knock on the door and we'll cut to the door cam and then we'll let him in. Any of you been watching SGN with John Krasinski? What's SGN? Oh, it's that, is it that Tom Clancy thing? Where he's done 2 seasons of it? What is SGN? Is it? Help me out. I'm not able to, that's probably information that's in my head because if it's the show you're talking about, I watched both seasons. Silicon grade neurons. No. SGN. Stargate. Nothing is what I had. SGN. Screaming gray nincompoops with John Krasinski. Denise, you tried your first wine? You've never, first wine, really? JD said the world was created only 10 minutes ago and God put all the memories in your brain. Prove me wrong! That's the Philip K. Dick Blade Runner, do androids dream of electric sheep, JD Mack theory. That's, I don't know about you, but Blade Runner, even though it is hailed by many people to be awesome, I think it's still underrated because the script is kind of amazing. It bears very little resemblance to the original book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, and I know that this is a tangent from a tangent from a tangent from a tangent, and this is an additional tangent just to point out that these are tangents. We'll come back to some of those threads. Maybe it's relevant. I have a lot of windows and a lot of tabs, and somehow that seems relevant right now. But Blade Runner, I still think it's underrated because, oh my God, Rutger Hauer's character, Roy Batty, every word he says in the script almost is really carefully chosen. He's very concise and they're poetic and amazing. Not just that end speech, everything he says. That end speech that everyone knows, it actually bookends his first words. His last words form a set of bookends for his very first words. The very first words out of it. The first time you see Roy Batty, his hand is clenching. The dying process has begun. First thing we see of him, his hand is clenching, and then it releases, and in that time he says, "Time enough." And you don't even know that when you're watching. This is a movie that you have to watch more than once to appreciate. And then his final words call that back. But don't make me say the whole thing. I know it. Darla is struggling with this. Hi for the, hey Dawn. Dawn can't stay long either. Hey Eric, do you know that your bedtime is about the same as my friend in the UK 5 hours later, 5 time zones over? Eric, if you're even still out there. I'm so behind. You guys have been commenting so much that I have no idea. You have so many comments there. There you go. So my point in bringing up Blade Runner, though, wasn't Roy Batty, but it was the Rachel character, J.D. Mack. It's that Rachel character played by Sean Young, who is such a tragic character. I mean, if you really empathize with her, which is one of the themes of the book and the movie, is about having that human capacity for empathy, which these replicants don't. They're called androids in the book, Andes. But if you empathize with her, mere machine or whatever she is, not really, mere synthetic being or whatever, to feel like just imagine you being told that all your memories from the past couple years, those are real. But everything before that, implants, memories. You're talking about memories. If we gift them with a past. Anyway, memory is an interesting subject. Let me take a look at some of the comments. And Eric, if you're still here, Dawn, thanks for tuning in. A hand-sewn mask. I almost forgot about the mask. But we've done a lot of bartering. I mean, we're just good neighbors, so we do each other favors. And occasionally there's pizzas and what have you. An occasional thermometer. I didn't have a thermometer, and Greg across the street didn't have a thermometer, and Eric didn't have a thermometer, and Eric acted on it. Greg found there were none in the stores around here. Eric ordered them online, and he ordered 3. He ordered 2 for his neighbors and 1 for him. Look at that ratio. Let me just tell my barter story then. I bumped into Kim day before yesterday, and I just like saying the other day. The other day. Not this day, the other day. There's this day, and there's the other day. That's how I solve that problem. The other day, I bump into Kim, and she's walking her dog, and she's got to get back because she's baking some fresh bread. Everyone's baking bread. In fact, I saw a list of the products that have increased the most in sales since the COVID-19 outbreak, and the ones that have decreased the most. And in the increase category was, like second or third was bread makers. Disposable gloves was number 1. Disposable gloves was number 1. I imagine that maybe soap wasn't at the top because already so much of it is purchased. So this was the greatest percentage increase. So disposable gloves and bread makers, I think, was second on the list. And she wasn't using a bread maker. She was doing it the old-fashioned way in her oven, which is wood burning, no doubt, and heats up the whole cabin. But she was making bread. A few hours later, I get a text from her asking if she could borrow some butter. And so we ended up trading some butter for some bread. I was like, well, yeah, is that for the bread? It's like, could I get some of that bread? And so the deal was a butter for bread exchange. I had excess butter. She had fresh baked bread. So I got the butter out. And then I walked to the front door. She lives right next door. And I kind of waited. And then when she came walking over, she was carrying a number of things. I told her to bring something to put the butter in. So she was bringing a little thing of bread wrapped in aluminum foil and a little plate thing to put the butter on. And she had 2 rolls of toilet paper with her, which shouldn't even be an unusual sight anymore, right? We should already be used to this. The neighbor comes over. She's got 2. She's not carrying them as she needed them along the way. She came from next door. But 2 rolls of toilet paper because she wanted some wine. And she said they were making garlic bread. Garlic bread. It's like, whoa. I said, all I have is garlic powder and the butter and the bread that you're giving me. And she said that would do. So that's what we did. She took a bottle of wine that I had available for her. And then I did that experiment. I think it was even the first thing I ate that day. It was great, thick, fresh bread with a lot of butter on it and garlic powder, and then baked in the oven for a little while. And it was pretty damn tasty, I gotta say. And then the next day when she asked me if I'd need anything. She got some groceries at a small local market, and she got me a bottle of wine and a little pastry. And that's my story. That's the barter society we live in. But there's so much of it going on. Trading, I didn't have any hand sanitizer, and Kim also gave me 1 little bottle for my car. That's gonna run out, and then I'll be lethal. Oh, yeah, and I almost forgot. Or I did forget, in fact. If we're being honest here, I totally forgot until Eric wrote hand-sewn mask is worth 2 rolls of toilet paper, until I reread that. That's one of my favorite little, it's like I almost forgot. No, you did forget. I remember. No, you didn't remember. I told you. That is not the same as remembering. Right? Remembering is when you do, I just remember. No, that's because I just told you. And then you remembered. I guess you can. Ah, yes, I remember now. But she made me a mask. The prom was good. 400,000 viewers. I don't know what that means. Let me catch up. Regina, I can't open a chat on YouTube. Sure you can. Hey, greetings from Argentina over there on Periscope. Hallucinogenia divulgación. Divulgación? Greetings from Argentina. Greetings to Argentina. I'm a little late on that. 21:41, 10 minutes ago. Don't know if you're still here. Jameson is... Can anyone help? Regina, you... Well, it's okay. But the chat on YouTube is a little weird, but it's there. I don't know if you're on a mobile or on a computer. Oh, Todd. But I have a story when I brought some visual aids to tell at least one story by request. And so if it turns out that Darlene is here, I'll tell that story in a minute. Skimming your... Some good news. SGN, no? Doorcam is a great idea. You also need a neighborhood of make-believe or of science. Yeah, Albert. Yeah, this is a sort of sciencey neighborhood. Eric and I met when we were both working at the Science Museum. He's not only a cartoonist, comic book artist, but he also does 3D animation stuff. And in fact, on Facebook, you may have seen, I think the other day, I shared a post of his about some work he's doing at the museum where they're building virtual exhibits, and it's online. So if you look at my Facebook posts, just from yesterday, I think, I haven't been posting much anyway. But it's very cool. It's like a walk through the museum. It's not all built yet, but he's doing it. Photographing the stuff and building 3D, and you can move around in it. So it's better on a bigger screen than a phone, but you can look at it on anything. But again, it's early, it's a work in progress, but that's super cool. So this is sort of a science neighborhood because across the street, 2 scientists, and an astrophysicist, astronomer guy, and previously Karen was into ornithology, but now really her area of specialty is citizen science. So 2 scientists across the street and some other science geeks down there. It's a pretty sciencey neighborhood. Dawn says all the days are blurring into one. A friend is calling every day Blur's Day. So today is my Blur's Day birthday. Is it your birthday? Brian needs to ask questions, then look at the latest scroll. Yeah, it's just so long that Elizabeth Hayes joined in at some point. Darlene is on and listening. Is she? Philip K. Dick died the day my sister was born. Is that right? You mean... I was telling a story about him the other day. Was she born March 2nd, 1982? I'm a little late on this, but I just happened, I brought a couple things down because I think I need to scan them. But that's just one shot of Philip, because I was telling a story about me and Mitch visiting Philip K. Dick's grave, and I have the photos, but they're not scanned, so I can do them the old-fashioned way. But I thought we were more high-tech since 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to be. I do have a story for you, Darlene, if you're out there. I'm scrolling down some comments here. Yes, it should be if I say PKD drink. Thanks for reminding me. No dropped frames. We're 24 minutes in. We're using 33%, 34% CPU. We're on a 20-second delay, but we're streaming in pretty good quality, right? I'm gonna scroll. Hadley was out there on Periscope. Doot. Hi, Dawn. I live in North Carolina, but you lived in Essex for 3 years? Implanted memories would be so freaky. I just think that Rachel character, just imagine being told that everything before that date was an implant. Tyrell's niece, they're her memories. The spider, all those little memories from your child, it's all implanted, but this past year, that's real. You know, your incept date was like December of 2019. So just these, we'll give you January of 2019. Clay and Steel. Kevin Kataoka. Kevin is in California. How are things in the Los Angeles area? And how are things in the East Bay, Celeste? All right. I think I'm going to tell my story. Hallucinated Science Pop. We already hit 100 messages really quickly tonight. Restream informs me. Lola J, one has to go. Lucky Charms, Fruit Loops, Apple Jacks. A hand-sewn mask is worth 2 rolls of toilet paper. Not by my math, but it's a very nice hand-sewn mask. I didn't prepare this image, but it shouldn't be too far back here. Oh, forget it. Who knows where it is? Is your camera? There it is. Where's, oops. It's not quite as in focus, but it's a very colorful mask. We're back to the low-tech version. Darlene is trying to help Regina get onto the YouTube channel. All right, Darlene, I have a story for you. Mark, you're going to know the characters in this. Kevin says the animation for COVID-19 always looks like it would be an amazing breakfast cereal. Life! Darlene is here, and she wants to hear about the Queen concert that I went to in Texas. I prepared some visual aids to tell Darlene this oft-requested story. Let me just scroll past these. All you need is a bar for the local scientist to walk into, Albert says. Hilarity would ensue. David says, kids love COVID-19 cereal. Moms approve. 4 to 5 dentists. One has to go. Dude's named Chance. Dude's named Chad. Lola J. Hey, Susan. Brian mentioned drop phrase. Drink! The A-hammer. The A-hammer. Gary Hobish. I should have known. Hello, Gary. How are you? How are things in the Bay Area? So are things... How locked down are you? You guys were one of the first to lock down. All of Albert's memories are implanted gradually. NetReamer says the image is great, but I feel like you've been ever so slightly out of sync from the first moment. Seriously? Let's test it. You know, I realize that I monitor these two over here. Oh, shoot. It's right at the beginning, though. I don't even know if it'll catch up. Can it catch up? Can it scroll? All right. David doesn't need all of my frames. Nobody needs all. I don't need all my frames. That's why I'm dropping them. You know what? I haven't even dropped any this, by the way. No drop frames. Tonight is a very special night, and our sponsor would like you to know that string cheese is sometimes available as Siamese string cheese. Our sponsor, String Cheese. Which one of these? One of these has got to go. Will it be Chad or Chase? I think Chad and Chase both have to go. If things get really dicey, we brought some Bordeaux cookies. They're French, I think. And if things get even dicier than that, we got one lint ball. Not the kind that my old roommate used to, when we shared an apartment and had a washer and dryer, and the washing machine was top loading and it had this like sort of dish thing on the top, and when you were done with the load, there were always these two lint balls that were like wet and on 180 degrees from each other. And he would always take them out. We had a little like laundry closet, and he would take them out and he would just put them on the shelf there. And the trash can was like right behind him. It was hardly any farther than that shelf. And he would do that religiously. That was his religion, as far as I could tell. And it drove me nuts. All right. Lint balls, yes. Denise says the sink was about a half second ahead. Ooh. Richard Simmons is necessary? Where that comes from? Oh, Kevin says, a few years ago there was a comedy show held at a Chinese restaurant in my hood. During one show, a woman kept drunkenly talking and heckling the comics. It was Sean Young! Kevin, maybe that's just an implanted memory you have of Sean Young. Oh my God. Kevin, was that a Kung Pao Kosher comedy show? It was a comedy show at a Chinese restaurant? Was it over Christmas? That's hilarious. Yeah, I've heard stories about Sean Young. Okay, so I have a story by request, and it really wouldn't be my stream if Brian May or Queen didn't come up in some way, right? So hang on to that thought, Darla. First of all, in addition to all this bartering and kindness from neighbors, last year, the other day, I was the recipient of an awesome, ridiculous act of gratitude. Someone did me a solid, let's just say. Someone I barely knew through the community of Queen and Brian May fans and stereo photography enthusiasts and all. Someone that I befriended on Instagram and Facebook, that would be Regina, had an extra ticket to a Queen show in New York at Madison Square Garden. And it was for someone else. They couldn't make it. She had this ticket. And she would rather give it to me than try to sell it or anything, or even accept any money from me. So she had a very strong pay it forward mentality and philosophy. And she told me some stories about it. She told me of some things some people did for her. She just told me some stories of paying it forward, someone's kindness to her, and she passed it on. And it was insane, but it worked out, and I went to that show, and I met her in that order. And I met her friend Darlene, who I met even before. I met her first, and we found our seats, and we enjoyed the show. And later, I was able to, really shortly after that, on Regina's birthday, I was in Atlanta with my sister, and we were walking across a parking lot, and I saw some young women by a car, and it looked like they were having an issue with a flat tire, and I asked them if they needed any help, and it turns out they did, and I changed a flat tire for someone on a really hot day in a parking lot, yeah. So it was like I kind of passed on. I paid it forward, not quite the same as her, but I paid it forward. They didn't know what to do, and they didn't know how to, and I tried to show them for the future how they could do it, but I changed it for them and paid that little kindness forward on Regina's birthday. So that's just a little bit of the story. Thanks. I'm glad you need, Gary, it's some pod safe music from Kevin MacLeod. Is that his name? I should know that. It's actually in the description, I think. Sean Young, it wasn't a Kung Pao kosher show. It was a weekly show at a place called the Palace Restaurant, which is now closed down. Everything is closed down. All right, so here's my story. Darlene, are you out there? Here's my story for you by request. And Kevin, it involves a venue that's shut down. In what is now this big, what the hell church is it called? Albert, what is the... I don't even want to say their name. It doesn't even matter. He's a sleazeball mega church that is where so many of my childhood memories took place, because it used to be the Summit in Houston, and it was a concert venue, and we saw so many awesome shows there. And I saw Queen there twice. Saw like Aerosmith with Journey, and Journey was brand new. I mean, they weren't new, but they were just taking their career to a new level. The Infinity album came out with Lights and Wheel in the Sky and a couple other things. It was sort of their breakthrough album. I think it's the first album that Steve Perry was on. And it was produced, as were a couple of their albums, by Roy Thomas Baker, who produced the first 7 or so Queen albums, the first 3 or 4 Cars albums, and a lot of other stuff. Okay, there's Darlene. So, anyway, that show was Aerosmith. Journey was middling, and the opening act was AC/DC with Bon Scott. And I saw ELO in the Summit, and I'm drawing a blank, but all the big concerts we saw, I saw Prince. No, I think I saw Prince in Austin. Never mind. I saw Prince on the Purple Rain tour. Yes, it was pretty good. I wasn't even the biggest fan, but he totally rocked. It was a very good show. Okay, Albert. Joel Osteen, Lakewood Church. Rich Moore, the Journey Infinity album. Yep. Osteen, yeah, he's a jerk. Didn't I say Infinity, Rich? Did I say something else? Didn't I say Infinity? Let me tell you something. Before that concert, one day I walked into Cactus Records in Houston, Texas. And when I walked in, they were having a contest and they were promoting this new album, Infinity by Journey. So everyone in the store got a copy of the Journey Infinity album. And we have never heard of them. They had a couple albums before, but this was their breakthrough album. And everyone in the store got a copy of Infinity. And on top of that, there was a drawing, and I won a little radio that looked like a Mr. Pibb can. It was a little, I don't know if it was AM, FM, or just AM, but it was like a little Mr. Pibb can shaped radio. And the Infinity album, which I took home and enjoyed, and then later saw them middling for Aerosmith, which was horrible, by the way. Oh, okay, hey, Rich. That restaurant closed for good 2 years ago. Well, the Summit, our dreams were crushed, and now it's this hideous, fake Christian preacher guy, Joel Osteen and Lakewood Church. But let's go to the story. I brought visual aids. I just forgot for a second what to click on. Okay, so, oh, you know what though? Okay, we're in the story. Never mind. All right, so, on August 10th, 1980, saw Queen for the first time. My friend David saw them in the Summit 2 previous times, both in 1977, because they were doing like the end of a tour off the Day at the Races album, which had Somebody to Love and Tie Your Mother Down. And then they came back. That was early in 77. Late in 77, they came back and did, because they had News of the World, which had We Will Rock You and We're the Champions. And he saw both of those shows, and I'm very jealous. But then I saw 1980 and 1982. In 1982, I was in the front row. In 1980, I'm pretty sure that it was A and B, so it was a front section in the 6th row. And look at those ticket prices, $9.65, but that includes a parking fee of 65 cents. Is that insane? And at these prices, everyone was still getting rich. I want to note that. They were all rich. They were flying around and fancy. They were all rich. Everyone was getting rich, and concert tickets were $9.65. Even sitting in the 6th row. So, my friend Arthur was at the show, and he took a few pictures. I'm going to build up to my story. So this is John Deacon, the bass player at that show, just with a crappy little Instamat. This is 1980, and I think he just had a little Instamatic, little, little cheap camera. That's John Deacon. He got this picture of Brian. Not great photos, but look how close he was. I think he was closer than me. We were all fans. Like, we were such fans that we dominated the front section of the Queen concert in Houston. We made sure of it. And he got that picture of Freddie. That's Freddie, 1980, by Arthur Kay, taken off of his Facebook page. So, oh yeah, you know what? There's another thing that happened. Here's another thing I should show you before. It's this picture was taken by a guy named Tom Callens, but have you ever seen this photo? It's been around a lot. This picture was taken August 10th, 1980 in Houston. So we were there. And this guy happened at this picture. There must be other pictures like it, but this is the one that has gone around the web and around the world, starting in 1980. And that's the show we were at. Look at that. Does he have definition in there or what? What the hell's going on? Freddie's got some ripped arms there, doesn't he? And nice shorts, huh? Nice. Okay, so, I'm sorry I don't have this visual aid available, but I scrawled out a set list during the show, and I have it. I'm sorry I don't have these pictures right now, but they opened like they used to in the old days. They opened with Jailhouse Rock. They sometimes closed with it. There's one of their early concerts from like 75 where they close with it. But they opened with Jailhouse Rock, and then they did this fast version of We Will Rock You, that rockin' version with guitars. And they would, later at the end of the show, they would do the normal version. And then they did Let Me Entertain You. And they played stuff like Death on Two Legs and just a lot of old classics. Brighton Rock, Keep Yourself Alive. And at the end, Tie Your Mother Down and Sheer Heart Attack. They ended with Tie Your Mother Down. And I just saw the list. I wouldn't have remembered this because I'm terrible at this. But I just saw this. They came out for an encore and did Sheer Heart Attack, and then another encore was We Will Rock You and We're the Champions, and I had written Flash to remind myself that he had worn the Flash shirt, and Vader. And there's the photo to go with that memory of Flash and Vader, the Flash shirt and the Vader. Huh. All right. So, the show ends. And one of my friends had called around and found out what hotel Queen was staying at. And I think that, as I recall, the way he found out was like, you don't call a hotel and go, is Freddie Mercury staying there? But you could call and say, is Jerry Stickles staying there? Because that's the road manager. And maybe he would just be there under his own name. And I think that's how my friends, and they also knew there were just a few hotels that were the most likely suspects. So we knew what hotel they were staying at. And we were in high school, by the way, and towards the end of high school. And very end, senior year, just a few months from graduating. Well, one semester away from graduating. So we went to the hotel. I forget, my friend David and Arthur, they were there. So at least two of my friends had this experience with me. So, Darlene, are you ready? Here's the good stuff. So we were waiting, and a car pulled up, like a limousine or something, and John Deacon, the bass player, got out, and he signed my program. I had a program. John signed it. He was nice. He signed it. I don't remember much. John signed the program. Then a second car came, and Freddie Mercury came out, and he signed my program. And I'm sorry, you know what? I can't believe I don't have this other photo, but there were only a few of us there. And, we're kicking ourselves because back then, we have no pictures of this. We didn't used to take selfies in 1980. We didn't memorialize, no one was prepared for it. But Arthur, who took those pictures at the show, in all likelihood, he had probably used up all the film during the concert. I should ask him about that. If those pictures are, Jesus, if those pictures are from that show, and then later we met Freddie Mercury, how come we don't have photos, Arthur? I need to get to the bottom of this. This is all of a sudden I realized that this whole story doesn't make sense. But we didn't have any pictures. Like, which would you rather have, Freddie Mercury's autograph or a picture of you with Freddie Mercury? Anyway, we were so excited. I had him sign it in two different places because there were just a few of us. So he signed my program on two different, perfectly like that, like in two perfect places, and a piece of paper that I think I got from the hotel. He signed that too. So that's where the story would have remained, and did remain for 30 years. That was a huge highlight. We saw them again in 1982, and Billy Squier opened for them, and it was Freddie and Roger Taylor had sung on a Billy Squier album called Emotions, the title cut, Emotions in Motion, and then he was opening for them. They didn't have an opening act the year before. One of the times that my friend David saw them in 1977, Thin Lizzy was their opening act, and that's like one of David's favorite bands as well. But in 1982, saw them. I think I had front row seats for that one. We didn't get to meet them or anything. So there it remains. I'm off at college by then. 30 years pass. And in around 2010, Brian May has acquired the London Stereoscopic Company. And all his life, he's been passionate about stereo photography. He acquired this London Stereoscopic Company that was publishing stereo views, stereo cards that you would put in a stereoscope and view in 3D in the 1850s. And they existed, a couple times, I think, but now it's his company. And starting then, he put out his first book, which was a work of scholarship about a certain series of cards that was published back in the 1850s by a guy who's his favorite stereo photographer. And it's called A Village Lost and Found. And at the time, I was making videos for Time magazine. And because of that, I got in touch with them somehow, and I was able to, he came to Los Angeles. I was living in San Francisco. Kevin Kadoka, are you still out there? This story is totally thanks to Kevin Kadoka. This portion of the story is not brought to you by String Cheese. It is not. It is brought to you by my friend Kevin Kadoka, who we had previously been roommates in San Francisco, and he had moved to LA. And Kevin contacted me and said, hey, did you know that Brian May is coming to speak here in LA at the Griffith Observatory? And I did not know that. How did Kevin know that and I didn't? I think at the time, I wasn't following Brian May on Instagram yet. I don't even think there was an Instagram in 2010. Was there? So Kevin let me know that Brian was coming to give a talk about this new book with the photo historian that was his co-author. And so I arranged to interview Brian May at Griffith Observatory. So I came down, I stayed at Kevin's apartment, and I went and saw him speak. Before the talk, I got to interview him. And it was supposed to be like half an hour. When I got there, they cut it to like 15 or 20. I can't remember. But I knew this in advance, that there were no Queen questions or anything. It was only about this book. And so So I only got to interview him about the book, and it was great, and I should show you that sometime. And in fact, I know now Brian's people at the London Stereoscopic Company, his curator, the two main curators for the company, and they're interested in the video because it's an interview about that book, and it's the first book the London Stereoscopic Company put out. And I have this great little interview with him. And afterwards, he had to go, but I was like, oh, could you please? This was it wasn't really allowed, but I was like, please. For 30 years, I've had this program that's been signed by, I'm an adult male. And for 30 years, I've had this program that Freddie and John signed, and could you sign it? And he wrote to Brian May. And that's where it stands. I have 3 of the 4 members' autographs on my program, and I've never met Roger Taylor. And now we live in total isolation, and we don't get to meet anyone ever again. Maybe I could have a Skype call with a Zoom meeting with him. Hey, can I get me a Zoom meeting? I don't even know why I'm mixing technologies here. What is this? I'm mixing poor improv skills. Somebody pointed out, how people could do like this as a phone, it's like, cause kind of like, but that's not how you hold a phone. Like if you were really doing improv, you would hold a phone like this, right? Yes. But we do this cause might trick someone into thinking I have a phone here. But I might one day get a Zoom call with Roger Taylor, but there will be no autographs unless they're by mail. And even then, you better let that mail be quarantined for about a week. So, that's my story. Let me scroll back and see, 1980, yep. Susan was in elementary school. Oh my God, I know, the ticket price, what does this say about my old geeky group of friends? Like a few of us have those old ticket stubs and stuff. I have them. I've always been a collector. I collected baseball cards. I collected coins for a little while. Baseball cards for a long time. Stamps, not really. Somebody, like a relative, gave me a stamp collection. I didn't really do much with it. Somebody also gave me a rock collection. I didn't do much with that. It's like, I found a rock. Here's it. Add it to it was in this basket that all of a sudden I'm remembering. That was the other day. But Darlene said, oh my God, but I don't know which part you were oh my godding about. OMG, were you a fetus in 19? How old am I now? See, I was a senior in high school. You do the math. I'm afraid to. It doesn't make sense. The math doesn't add up. It's nonsensical. It's imaginary numbers. It's bullshit. I don't agree with it. It's the new math. It doesn't add up. And no, thank you for asking, when I have to fill out a form online and I have to scroll way the hell down to get to my birth year, no, I don't like that. Thank you. Did I see the GoGos? No, I saw a lot of 80s stuff. I was just talking to someone about Denise. Weren't we talking about Howard Jones? I saw Howard Jones. I saw what's the equivalent of the GoGos? I saw Suzanne Vega. I saw Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I saw Adam Ant with In Excess opening up. And In Excess only had really one known song yet. It was Don't Change for Me. Don't change a thing for you or me. I don't know. Don't Change is what it's called. I should have just left it at that. I was on solid ground with Don't Change. Just think, for me, for you, just don't change. Don't go changing to try and please me. Oh, I'm mixing the streams. I saw Billy Joel once. I saw Prince. I did. Brian Morris, did you see the GoGos? Did anyone see the GoGos? I saw Joan Jett. You do want to hear my Joan Jett story. Joan Jett rocked. It wasn't as big a venue as the Summit. It was a smaller place, but it was after she had her hit with I Love Rock and Roll, and it was like soon after that, but it was like a, I don't know, like small-ish venue. And I was pretty close up, and it was one of those where the stage was just like there, and there was Joan Jett, and so I was a fan, and there was a girl. And when was that? When did Internet Team, I'm way behind on the comments, but I wonder what year that came out. I could Google it myself, or I can get to your answers in about 20 minutes. So, at the show, there was this girl, she was kind of cute, there was some flirting going on, but then, this is what happened. Joan Jett was sweating a lot, and she had a towel, not a hand towel, but that neck size up that you would have in your bathroom. She had a towel, and she was wiping her sweat with it, and then she threw it out in the crowd, right to me, and I caught it. I'm not saying she threw it to me. There was no note attached with her hotel room number. She threw it out, and I got it. And this girl who thought she was very attractive, and she kind of was, it was in my hands, and then she grabbed it afterwards. That's the order of things. It was only in my hands. It wasn't in both our hands. It was just in my hands, and then she grabbed it. And then she tried to pull it away. And we had a little tug of war while Joan Jett is rocking. And then, so we're pulling a little, and she put her foot. She wasn't wearing slippers. She was wearing heels, maybe little stilettos. She put her foot on my chest, and we were right next to the stage. So I lifted her foot just like an extra. She was comfortable putting it that high, but she was less comfortable when I lifted it up another half a foot or foot and placed it on the stage and took the fucking towel. Because that's the kind of guy I was. I'm not saying, I wouldn't have. I don't have to make excuses to you. You're not my real dad. I wouldn't have done that at all. But what the hell? She planted her heels on and pulled. So where's that towel now? You'd think that it would be enshrined, that I would have it here, but I do not. All right. Russ Forbes, October 78, Dallas, 5th row. That's not the GoGos, is it? We didn't have the GoGos in 78, did we? Is that Queen? Tom has as many guitars as I do. Freddie got into trouble for that antic. Leonard. Which one? Leonard Rubin. How's it going, man? Were you at that Queen show in 80? You must have been, right? In 82? Brian, the Queen Conservatory. J.D. Mack, have you read the book Life on Two Legs, Set the Record Straight by Norman Sheffield, which covers a lot of Queen's early years? If so, do you think it's accurate? I don't know, but the reason it's called that is because Freddie wrote a song called Death on Two Legs, dedicated to ... and I think it was dedicated to him, and it was about how he was an early manager and screwed them. To hear Freddie tell the story, let's see, he said, "You suck my blood like a leech, you break the law and you breach, screw my brain till it hurts, you've taken all my money and you want more, misguided old mule, pig-headed, wow, what a sad day it is, pig-headed fool, misguided, whatever." But I don't know. I've never read that book. Have you read it, JD? So I don't really know what the story is. Let me scroll down these. No photos, but you can describe it like it's so damn special. No photos, but you can describe it like it was yesterday. Yeah, I really wish I could remember more. Here's meeting Freddie. There's one other thing. at some part in the show, he was wearing a Superman shirt. And I think that's what he had on at the very end. And my friend David called him Superman. We're high school kids. We're seniors in high school. And, oh, wait a minute. David must have already graduated. He was 1 year older than me. But I was like, hey, Superman. But other than that, I remember that he didn't seem as, he's such a larger than life figure. And the way he would pose, like, if when you think of Freddie Mercury, if you think of like 1980s Freddie with the mustache and leather and the way he moved in the 80s on stage was very different from the way he was in the 70s. And in the 70s, he would like strike these dramatic, he didn't run around quite as much. I mean, he kind of did, but he would strike these poses. And he just seemed so much larger than life. And he was usually leotards and ballet slippers. And that's how I like my Freddie Mercury. Give me my Freddie Mercury in leotards and ballet slippers every time. And hold the mustache. And bring on the long hair. Oh, yeah. So, by the way, my hair was getting my hair's getting a little frizzy, and there have been times in my life when I've worn my hair pretty short for a while now, but there have been times in my life where it was a little longer, and some of you have seen this, but let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that and that. And this was a little before. This is the guy that went to see Queen, but this is a few years before. That's me. Comments? Go ahead. Let's hear them. I know some of you saw this on Facebook because when I posted this both to Instagram and Facebook the other day, it got more likes. It got more likes than almost anything I've ever posted. It was right up there with my most popular posts. Easily. The puka beads, the little tiger eye thing at the bottom, and the puka shells or puka shells. And nice hair, huh? Nice. What happened? It was so thick and luscious, and it's not even the same color. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't look the same. All right. That's all you get. Oh yeah, so I do have one more Freddie thing to show you. I got at least one more visual aid. Let's see what you guys got to say. I do need to check with Arthur about that camera situation. I didn't think about that. Just David and I have always talked about the fact that, God, what a shame we don't have photos. Too bad. Great memory, but wouldn't have been nice to have a photo with Freddie Mercury. I would like that. And you can't really get one of those anymore. Brian Morris said the cheerleaders in my high school used to do very suggestive routines at pep rallies to Billy Squier songs. Billy Squier did very suggestive things in his videos. You were always out of film when the concert ended. Regina got a Village Lost and Found. Me too. Blue says, hey, Brian, what was the book you read a couple episodes back with that kid at the funeral? I quite enjoyed it and need a copy for myself. Blue, are you still out there? That book was by Richard Brautigan, Brautigan, Brautigan. Richard Brautigan, and it's called So the Wind Won't Blow It All Away. And it's one of my very, 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 very favorite books. I like it. I like it so much. And my favorite sentence, wow, I moved. I'm closer to the camera and farther from the book. I couldn't reach back to the bookshelf. Hold on a sec. Here we go. The book that it's called So the Wind Won't Blow It All Away. And I really, you guys, I want you to know Richard Brautigan. I don't really think you should start with this book. It was, I think, the last one published before he died, and then one or two others came out after he died. But, and when did this come out? 1982. I think that's about when he died. Philip K. Dick was born in 1928 and died in 1982. I think Richard Brautigan killed himself in 1984. But there was this, I read you this, I love this sentence. It's a paragraph, it's one sentence, and it's one of my favorite sentences. And it's, this little kid is watching a funeral, and it turns out like he'd never before thought about who was in the casket, but this time the casket was small, like a child, like him. He's like 5 years old watching this. And then it says, the next morning for my funeral viewing pleasure, he lived next door to a funeral parlor. They held the funeral for a dead child. I was up bright and early and standing on my chair. The funeral unfolded like the petals of a flower, whose ultimate blossom was a small coffin coming out the door of the funeral parlor and on its way to the hearse, and that final place where the hearse would take it and come back empty, and the child wouldn't need its toys anymore. Yeah. Richard Brautigan. I thought we were a little too happy. Bring it down. Bring it down just a little bit. Let's check the comments. That's the book, Blue. Darlene asked if I had those signed photos framed. The thing is, Darlene, that's a program. It's a program from 1980. It's not in mint condition or anything, and I haven't even tried that. It's beat up a little bit, but the pages that are signed, it's like they're all, I could open it up and untake it, but it's a program signed by Freddie and Brian and John, and hopefully one day it's signed by Roger. It's such a dilemma. What do you say? I put it to you people. I'm not saying I'm going to take your suggestion, but which would you, I mean, how beautiful would it be? You could take out the staples, and I don't even know, because some of those pages might be the same. I haven't scoped it out to see, like, you understand what I'm indicating? I don't have the words, but, it may not be possible to frame them all because some of them might be the same, and I'm not going to cut it. But you could potentially open up and take apart the program, and it could always be reassembled, and then I could have that framed. But I don't know. Another option is to just scan it really well and frame that. But then that's not even the real thing. But that's a program signed by them. Am I going to take it apart? I haven't for 30 years. 39 years. It's actually in the year of 39. It's now been 39. This is the perfect year, or maybe last year was the 39th year. It's been 40 now. I should have gotten Roger in the year of 39 in 2019. But anyway, let's see what you guys have been saying. Are y'all trying to watch this video at other places hey, Brian Morris. Yeah, Brian Morris. Did you not know this? That you could be watching me. Well, you saw it in my post. If you're watching on YouTube, that's where all the comments are. Most of these people, because I'm trying to build up my YouTube channel, and also I have issues, there's some other issues with Facebook, technical issues, not even the philosophical ones. But my YouTube channel is Science Comedian. It's youtube.com/Science Comedian. Come find me here. I'll be honest, I like that. I'm going to be honest, if you have Freddie's signature, you are so ahead of the curve. I have 3 of Freddie's signatures. Oh, Darlene, so you know what I did, and the reason I can't easily get this is I finally did have something framed. I did not for like 38 years, but like a year ago, that's the set list is on 3 pieces of paper, scrawled in my handwriting. And then so picture a montage of like these 3 pieces of paper that have my scrawled out set list, Jailhouse Rock, Death for Death on Two Legs. They're all Mustafa. They played some of Mustafa. And then the concert ticket. And then I told you that I have Freddie Mercury's signature on a piece of paper. That one is part of that. So there's a Freddie signature and the concert ticket. You know, I've been shy about my geekiness. You may not be picking up on that. My good friends know, but as far as like somewhat to the public, I've held back in the past. But apparently that's the past. I'm now embracing it. It doesn't matter if soon in the foreseeable future I'll be a 60-year-old man who's still obsessing about this, about my favorite band. Are bands important to you? Gary Hobish, if you're still out there, I think bands are important to you. Kevin, bands are pretty important to you. Movies are important to you too. Thanks from Regina. The Bangles, I didn't see the Bangles. There is no equivalent to the Go-Go's. It's true. Well, the Bangles, how about the Bangles? They're, maybe they're not the Go-Go's. That was when they were before XS. Regina says, you graduated in 1980. Sounds like we might be the same age, Regina. Kathy Valentine, the Go-Go's bass player, is the Kevin Bacon of 80s musicians. She has a new bio out. She's cool. Oh, and then speaking of the Bangles, I follow, what's her name on Instagram? Oh, I'm drawing a blank. Who's the Bangle? Anyway, she's cool. Oh, Kathy Valentine is a good... Who's the Bengal that I follow on... All right. I'm not going to wait until I see your comments. Susanna Hoffs. Thank you. Who am I thanking? Google? Susanna Hoffs. Oh, all I had to do was read Mark's comment. The Bengals were good. The Go-Go's were good. Were you a senior in 77 or 80? I was a senior in 80 when I saw Freddie. And 77, when my friend David saw Queen twice, that was probably before I had ever been to a concert. My first concert was Kansas at the Summit. It was the Point of No Return tour, which was a great title song, but Dust in the Wind was their big hit. They had previously had Carry On My Wayward Son, but then Dust in the Wind took them to a new level. And the opening band was kind of new. They had a song on the radio that sounded pretty good. It was called Surrender, and they were called Cheap Trick. So technically, they were the first band I saw. So, Kansas, Point of No Return, that would have been 77. Son of a bitch. My first concert, son of a bitch. October 11th, 77. I gotta find out when those other two Queen shows were. Sorry. This is important. Damn it. They played December 11th. So if I had already seen a concert on October 11th of 77, why didn't I see Queen 2 months later? My childhood is crumbling before your eyes. I don't even recall ever looking at this before. So they came once early in the year and they came once in December. And I was thinking that I missed them because I had never seen a concert before, but I had been to my first concert and it was Kansas. We have seen the enemy and it is Kansas. And 77, oh my God. So that Queen 77 show in December for News of the World, in which Freddie's wearing a white leotard during most of the show. Look up, that show is recorded in pretty good quality. The video's not great, the audio's great. And you can find that all over YouTube. I have a copy of the whole concert, but you can find it on YouTube, Queen Houston 77. And, that's a good era for them, for me. All right. Brian, I'm sufficiently unbiased, gay, so I didn't want to F any of them, but I loved them. Both groups were great, different trips. Oh, you're gay, so you're not biased. So your reason for liking the Go-Go's and the Bangles. So you're calling into question my appreciation of the Go-Go's and the Bangles just because I think Susanna Hoffs is hot and maybe some of the Go-Go's were too. But they were pretty catchy. I know, Susan, where is that towel? I know you like my Joan Jett story. I raised a foot. I really did. It was, the thing is, I didn't even do that story, Jessica, because it was just like, it was so easy. She put her foot here and I was outraged. I was insulted. This is back to the Joan Jett story in the comments. But it was so easy because the stage was right there and I just had to lift it up a little higher and she lost her balance and I regained control of the towel. Kevin, is the Summit the place they show in Clash's Rock the Casbah show? No, the Summit was a huge venue. I think the thing you're talking about was in Austin, and it was the Palmer Auditorium in Austin, in the Rock the Casbah video. The Summit was a bigger venue, but in that Palmer Auditorium, I saw years later, I would see, when I was already a comic, I went with Tom Hester. We saw Sam Kinison. And, but at the Palmer Auditorium, I think that's where I saw, or there's this other Coliseum that was in Austin. But I think that's where I saw, I said his name earlier. Like to get to know you well. Like to get to know you well. The keyboard player. Damn. Okay. Norman admits in Death on Two Legs that it's about him. Yeah, I think everyone knew. They didn't say, they put out a live album called Live Killers, and they go, this next song's about and then there's these loud beeps. Beep, beep, beep. It's bleeped out. It goes, this next song's about a beep, 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 beep. We call him Death on Two Legs. Rock the Casbah. I think that was filmed in Austin. Mark? Norman says in the book that without him, Queen would never have gotten their start. That's easy to say, but the guys had a little bit of talent, so, and they got together without him, so I don't know. You got your Brian May and your Freddie Mercury and Roger Taylor and John Deacon. They all were songwriters. John wasn't at first, but eventually he was. And wrote a couple of their biggest hits. He wrote Another One Bites the Dust, and he wrote I Want to Break Free, and some other really catchy little songs. As old as I am, everybody I hang out with likes to remind me, Queen was a minute before I was able to do things on my own. I remember mainly Another One Bites the Dust, so that was 80 on. Yeah. It's this. I'd like to point you towards 1970s Queen. I don't know what kind of music you're into, but oh wow. Let me see. What a great photo. You like my picture. What's my take on Adam Lambert? Kate also wants to know how Dom is doing. Hey, Kevin, if you're still out there. Dom and I recently exchanged a couple messages. He's okay. He lives with his girlfriend, and I don't know what he's up to. We just kind of recently exchanged barely a message, so I need to catch up with him. But my take on Adam Lambert is that there's no replacing Freddie Mercury, and nobody thinks there is any replacing Freddie Mercury. They don't think there is, but I want to see Brian May and Roger Taylor in concert playing those songs. And I saw them do one tour. They call it, they don't just call it Queen. They called it Queen plus Paul Rogers. Paul Rogers of Bad Company and Free. And they did a tour in 2006. In fact, since we're talking about it, or I am, this is the one picture I took I took a couple hundred pictures at this Queen in San Jose, Queen plus Paul Rogers show, and of a couple hundred pictures, this is the only one that came out great. That did come out great. So that's Brian May in 2006. Queen plus Paul Rogers, but Adam Lambert's voice, so it's Queen plus Adam Lambert, and his voice is more appropriate for Queen's music. That was a really good show, and they made an album together that has some decent stuff on it. I mean, there's some of it that I really like. My favorite song on the album is a Paul Rogers song, actually. But Adam Lambert has a powerful voice, and he fits, and he's really gay and campy, like Freddie, but not in the same way. Like he's definitely not mimicking Freddie or anything, but he's similarly, but not in the same way. But like he changes costumes a bunch, and he's very flamboyant, and he's got a very powerful voice. I would say that in the later Queen years with Freddie, Adam can hit notes that Freddie would drop them down compared to doing on the album. Like he could hit notes like that, but what Freddie could do in his earlier days live and in the studio, I think is untouchable. And it's like, I don't know, to me, nobody has the character that's in Freddie Mercury's voice. So the bar's really high. So, but Adam Lambert's been singing with them some like 7 years, and I've seen him really evolve. So, he's grown into the role really well. Compared to 7 years ago, he does a great job. It's really fun. Rocking the puka shells, breaking hearts with all the BPG girls, Albert. Let me try to catch up to you, Freddie. Talk and all. He was really shy and quiet. He wasn't Freddie Mercury. Darlene asked if he talked at all. He was, but he looked like someone who was drained after a 2 or 2.5 hour show where he runs all over the place like crazy and sings and maybe like a guy that came back and instead of a bunch of studly guys, it's just some high school boys who will you sign my program? Maybe that's not the thing he wanted to be greeting him when he got to the hotel. So he was kind of quiet and I don't remember it much. So, Blue, you saw that? Awesome. Games made of cardboard. I switched to YouTube. Way to go, Brian. You'll see this 15 minutes after I post it. 2240, 13 minutes. You said 15. I saw it 13 minutes later, you bastard. Oh, Sebastian is back. Hey, man. I've taken apart a program and had an autograph page of Garth Brooks framed. Why would you do that, Darlene? Oh, Darlene, don't make me take back my story. I wish you could have gotten Roger's autograph at Madison Square Garden last August. Yeah, me too. But, just having good seats doesn't get you that. Doesn't get you that. They played Mustafa. At least that's what I have written on my set list. Gary, are you kidding? Yeah, I know. Bands are important. You're my age or possibly a couple years older. And I know that are you going to still love the Bangles? Sebastian, you could go Vegas Gold and Silver Pawn Shop, and Rick would tell you that those signatures are worth 8 pennies. Take out. Embrace the geekiness. Music's important to Denise. Sue Peterson, married to Cowsill, Susanna Hoffs. You guys are kids. Gary, I don't know. You're just a couple years older. Your first concert was the Lovin' Spoonful in 1967. Wow. My uncle saw the Beatles play. I forget which show. Damn it. I want to say that he was at, I don't know, but he saw the Beatles. Darlene is 62, still obsessed with Brian May. Not a geek at all. I'm so enjoying your Fireside Chat. Susanna Hoff still looks and sounds great. Yeah. Was I grounded? I don't know. Is it possible that in 1977, Albert, do you remember when we began to obsess about Queen? That would have been 77. Of course we already were by then, because that was news of the world. And Day at the Races, so Bohemian Rhapsody was 1975. Killer Queen came out in 74. Sheer Heart Attack. Bohemian Rhapsody and You're My Best Friend were 1975. Somebody to Love in 76. And then We Will Rock You, We're the Champions, boom, in 77. Man. So even though I can place no things in time, that's not from memory. That's not from like lived memory. That's from being obsessive about the band and knowing that when the albums came out. But not because I remember it. Don't be hard on your childhood. They just made a mistake in your programming. Mark Kaplan saw Little Feat at the Houston Music Hall in 77. Was it the Houston? No. I saw somewhere back around then too, in those next couple years, Steve Martin. Maybe that was Hoffein's Pavilion or something. I saw one Elton John tour. The first time I saw Elton John was approximately 77, 79, 77. He had already done stadiums, and he did a tour with just Ray Cooper, his percussionist, and he played smaller venues. And I think he played Hoffein's Pavilion, and David Yaffe and I were there, and it was amazing. I would go on to see him a few more times over the years with full bands, but oh my God, he came out for an hour and a half, and just him and the piano, and he played electric piano on at least one song, a long cover of Heard It Through the Grapevine, jamming on the electric piano. But just Elton, his voice in the mid to late 70s, just him and the piano for an hour and a half. Then he took an intermission. Then he comes back out with Ray Cooper with drums, and not a regular drum set, but timpani and chimes and just a full complement of percussive stuff, and they did another hour and a half, and it was amazing. That was one of the best shows I'll ever see. It was incredible. All right. Darla asked me about hecklers. That was so long ago. Hold on. Joan Jett Wrestling. Howard Jones. Thank you. Like to get to know you well. Vicky Peterson, Susan, Jay Roach, Austin, dude, too. Walk Like an Egyptian. The Brady Kids. I'm trying to catch. Oh, I'm kind of caught up. Adam isn't partying like Freddie did, so it was never going to be sustainable. Well, it turned out Freddie's version wasn't sustainable. I love that Adam is willing to do it and that Queen is willing to entertain it. Yeah. They want to play those songs. It's like, you know what's funny? I love Freddie Mercury. I love the whole band. But there are these haters out there that say, without Freddie Mercury, it's not Queen, and sometimes they're pretty harsh about it. And I saw one guy say that without Freddie Mercury, it's a cover band. I take huge exception to that, and I also am on very solid ground when I say that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, because if you want to be disavowed of that opinion, go listen to some of Freddie Mercury's solo work, and it's not the same caliber as the Queen work. So if you want to attribute everything to Freddie Mercury, just go listen to his solo work. There's some good stuff in there, but it's not the same. Queen was one of those things that the whole is greater than any of the parts. And Freddie's amazing. I love him. I even like a lot of that solo stuff. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying that there's something else, just like the Beatles, but I like a lot of the solo stuff from Paul especially, and John and George, and even Ringo. But the whole's greater than the parts. More than the sum of just its parts. Yeah, why do those amazing singers? Freddie and David Bowie were smokers. Hard to believe. Darlene was a huge Garth Brooks fan. Sebastian's parents saw Michael Jackson before his skin surgery, they still say. That concert has yet to be beaten. Mark, was the Coliseum? I don't know. I would love to see Elton one more time before he really retires, but you'll never get me to New York ever again. No? Are you in New Jersey? Was that bad? I went and saw Elton there at Madison Square Garden. It was a good show. He's worth seeing. Albert, no. If not Adam, hold on. What about Todd?
Stinks. Light it up, let's get this show on the road. Live in 2020. Tommy, JY, Lawrence, Ricky, Todd, Chuck. Stinks.
Who are these people? They are not Sticks. You asked for it. You got it. That wasn't my fault. That was all on you. Cover band Journey with the guy who is not Steve Perry. So Brian, you're coming in at the tail end of a private joke there about Styx. I saw that ad, and Styx is a band that I saw 3 times in like high school and the beginning of college. Pieces of Eight was the great show, and they were a rock band. And then Cornerstone was kind of mellow. It was like, whoa, almost not the same band. And then somewhere in between, Paradise Theater. Jonna Williams. Oh my God, dear Lord. Jonna, 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 hey Jew. I don't know why you randomly just said Dane Cook, but there was a journey, and Greg Raleigh. You don't have to tell me, old man howling him out. There was a journey before Stephen Perry, and there can be a journey after him. Yeah, but they did replace. I stopped caring about Journey. I started to hate Steve Perry's voice later, but I like the Infinity album a lot. And it's a good mix of both of their lead vocals. Greg Raleigh sang some. There was just what Dane Cook. Oh no. Why did you even randomly say Dane Cook? My friend Jonna Williams. Jonna, you can, if you would, all these, the comments I'm responding to are mostly on YouTube. And I implore you to come over to youtube.com/Science Comedian. Science Comedian, that's me. That's my channel. I'm trying to build up my YouTube channel, and also it just works better in some other ways. And that's where all that commenting is. So, Jonna, if you're out, Jonna, can you hear me? Come on over there. Are there cover comedians? Oh, that's... I read the punchline before the setup, Albert. Without Todd, it's not Styx. Yeah, Gary and Brian, I had seen this very ad on Instagram that I thought was so funny that I actually screen recorded it.
Stinks. Light it up, let's get this
show on the road.
Live in 2020.
Tommy, JY, Lawrence, Ricky, Todd, and Chuck, one of the Panazzo brothers. But, Styx. It's like half those people are not in Styx. You're kidding me. And then the joke is on me because some of those guys have been in the band like 20 years. They've been in Styx longer than Dennis DeYoung was in Styx. Jesus. So that's pretty crazy. With you on the cover band issue. Yeah, Gary. So that's not a cover band. I go to the Queen concerts, plural, because Brian, it is a joyous thing to hear these songs and to see Brian May play guitar. And you know what? Queen there's a beautiful symmetry. Of course, it is ridiculously tragic that Freddie Mercury died. But there is a very interesting symmetry in that before Queen, Brian May and Roger Taylor, the guitarist and the drummer, they played together in a band called Smile. And if you saw the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, I actually just saw a clip of Brian telling this story. It's like they made it look like he saw them one time and he approached them about being in the band, but he used to come see them a lot. And then when their singer left, Tim Staffel, Freddie was like, I sing, and joined the band. But they all knew each other. He didn't just walk up and introduce himself. He had been hanging around. But Brian May and Roger Taylor were playing together before Queen, pre-1970. And then Freddie joined, and then they tried out some bass players, and they settled on John Deacon. Flash forward, Freddie dies, John retires, and Brian May and Roger Taylor are still playing together for like 50 years now. They were there before Queen, and they're there after Queen. They were the core, but of course it was a 4-piece band, and every part was important. But that's a kind of interesting symmetry. And so to see them play these songs, and to see those guys play together and play these songs, and then they have some other musicians they play with, and some of them they've been playing with for a long time. One guy on keyboard, Spike Edney, was playing with them with Freddie quite a long time ago, towards the later years, unless I'm mistaken. He's been playing with him a long time. I think he was, because he's on some recordings, I think. Anyway, so Freddie Mercury, there's no overstating his importance or anything, but it wouldn't have been Queen without Brian May either. Maybe arguably it wouldn't have been Queen with missing any of them, but I guarantee you it would not have been Queen without Brian May. That guy didn't know what he was talking about. So much of the Queen sound you don't even know. Just because Freddie sings all the songs, half those songs he sings are Brian May compositions, and the sounds and the guitar and everything. So don't get me started. So here's my thing. Adam is not pretending to be Freddie. The Journey thing, that guy's trying to sound just like, Same with Judas Priest. They actually got someone from a Judas Priest cover band, the singer, to be their fake Rob Halford. But when they didn't, and you know what? There's this thing, there's a guy that does a great impression of Freddie. What's his name? And a lot of people are like, why don't you have him sing instead of Adam Lambert? He sounds more like Freddie, but that's the thing. They never wanted someone to mimic Freddie. So first Paul Rodgers, who's very different. First of all, his voice, completely different register. And also he's more of a bluesy, and that's the thing, maybe that's why they didn't stay together that long, is that Queen does their early stuff. There is some bluesy rock in there, some Brian May songs in particular. But Paul Rodgers is much more bluesy rock. And in the same way, some people had said, when Queen did that Freddie Mercury tribute and they performed with a lot of people, one of the best performances was by George Michael. He sang Somebody to Love. And wow, that's a hard song to sing. And he sang the hell out of it, belted it out. But I've heard them talk about this too. It's that Queen is a rock band. If you know them from the 80s, you may not really know this, but all like the 70s and into the 80s, they were like a rock band. And George Michael's more of a pop act that, kind of a different vibe. Anyway. You know what? I shouldn't say this, but we haven't actually dropped a frame, and we're an hour 38 in, if you can believe it. Still with a 20-second delay. This is going to be for me later, so like an hour 38 if I can remember to look at this. Okay, so Gary, you worked on Escape. I didn't know what you meant, but you mean the Journey album? So Gary is a sound guy, sound recordist, for live stuff, for studio stuff. What did you do on Escape, Gary? I had a chance to start hating Don't Stop Believing before any of you. That's not even the one. The one that it started to grate on me, it's Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin'. I really like the Infinity album. But by Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin', too much. I didn't ask any of you what you're eating and drinking. Albert, what was for dinner? Make me jealous. But I have a little red wine. Darla, good night. Night, folks. Darla. You have to go? Typical Brian. Well, then you'll have to come back. Darla, I don't know if you're still out there, but I owe you one. Longer. Brian M. I'm going to Journey Hate. It starts at the Keys. Really? And extends all the way to right now. Journey's overrated, but that Infinity album was nice. I like Lights. Kevin Karaoke probably has strong feelings about them because when the lights go down in the city, they were a Bay Area band, right? I don't know if Kevin's still out there, but I think Journey was pretty well hated there. But at some point, they must have been liked, and they were probably loved outside San Francisco, all over in the East Bay and the South Bay. I'll bet they were loved. You stopped believing a long time ago, Albert. Well, you know, I have this little Mr. Pibb can radio-shaped place in my heart for the early Journey. As Kevin pointed out, it's always the early days. It's the early Ambrosia. Oh my God, Gary. Gary, the other night, Kevin made what seemed like a really weird non sequitur, and he said something about it like Brian's the kind of guy that like, something about, so I said something about, but you don't know about the early Ambrosia. Did you know the band Ambrosia? And then I went off on Ambrosia for a while because they took, for lyrics of a song, do you know, they took a Kurt Vonnegut like poem out of Cat's Cradle and they set it to music, and that's nice, very nice. Eric Pulaski. Oh man, are you still there? 2309. 3 minutes ago, Eric Pulaski. How are you doing, my friend? Eric, are you still out there? So many brilliant gay singers. All my favorites, Elton John and Freddie Mercury. And this guy in the magnetic fields, his name is Stephen Merritt. Oh my God. Singer, songwriter. And he'll use other singers for his songs too, but I love him too. Not being a smartass, but George Michael is the one. I never totally, I think he's all right. He sang the hell out of that Somebody to Love, and he also sang the hell out of, Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, is it, that he did with Elton? Was that the Elton song that he does? Gary did digital editing on the Escape album. I hated Love and Touch. Yeah, I hated that song. I'm working on a 6-pack of Burial Surf Wax. I'm about to have a burger. Tell Albert the chicken sandwich at Himalaya was awesome. Hey, Albert, did you see that? The chicken sandwich at Himalaya? That doesn't sound very Indian. Like, what chicken sandwich? Eric, good to see your name there. Good to hear from you. I hope you're doing all right. And one pernicious, that was accidental. I didn't hate everybody. Ross, Redfish, Punch Train. Darlene, I mainly went to see Queen plus Adam Lambert because I love Brian May and Roger Taylor and was skeptical at first about Adam. Me too. But he's a great entertainer. His voice has gotten much stronger than when I saw him at the Prudential Center in 2017. Mark Martel is the guy I was trying to think of. He sounds great as Freddie, but he's not campy or flamboyant like Adam. But he puts on a good show because he fronted this Queen extravaganza, like that is a cover band sanctioned by Queen, and he's great. But that's not what Queen wanted. They didn't want a cover. I was in the front row when I saw him 2 years ago. Let's give me the money to Last Horizon. That's how close I was. It was nice. She has a great personality. Albert, what are you talking about there? Oh, I see what you see. They were liked in the beginning. Right, they were kind of jazzy in prog. Ex-Santana members. You know what? Neil Sean or Schoen. Journey guitarist, and then later Bad English? I think, so I was a fan of John Waite from the Babies and his solo career. And I went and saw Bad English, which, am I remembering this right? It was Neil Schon and that later keyboard player that joined Journey. What's his name? Oh, no. He was in the Babies. I'm confused. Maybe he was in both. Is there a Journey Babies crossover? Could be. No, it was this guy that he was in the Babies with John Waite and Neil Schon. Anyway, I was living in Austin. I forget what venue I saw them play, a smallish venue. And afterwards, I went to Katz's, which is this deli that was 24 hours. Katz's never closes. Ultimately, it closed. It went out of business. But their slogan was Katz's never closes. You know, what's ambiguous about never? Is there anything ambiguous? Katz's never closes. And then they closed. I mean, come on. You don't see the problem with that? Anyway, I went to Katz's and Neil Schon was like at one booth over after the Bad English show. That's my brush with fame there. Oh, you ran into Eric. I thought maybe you recommended it. Mark, is he married yet? Thanks so much for talking about the Queen concerts. All right, Darlene, that was for you. I'm glad you liked it. I probably left out some important stuff. Eric said that plate, I guess the chicken was a new thing for the coronavirus pandemic. We got a new dish for the pandemic. Comfort food, fried chicken sandwich with special sauce and comes with fries and a soda. Wow, that sounds really different. The last time I was in Houston, Albert and Susan took me to Himalaya. And Jonathan Kane, thank you, Albert. Jonathan Kane, Brian says that one John Waite song is great. Do you mean, you mean Missing You? I love that. I love these songs. I know there's more than two, but right now I know, he keeps saying I ain't missing you at all, but if you listen, he really does miss her. I think it's a her. No offense. But he keeps saying I ain't missing you at all, but he misses her. It's just like that 10cc song, I'm Not in Love. It's like, he's in love. He's saying he's not, but he's in love. You can tell. Missing You. Oh, Isn't It Time? That's a Baby song. You said the one John Waite. So Missing You was his big solo hit, but he also had an earlier one called Change. Do you remember when you got your lucky break? I opened for John Waite once in the Bay Area. Gary, I forget what little town it is, and there's this little theater somewhere in the East Bay. I opened for John Waite, and you know what? Before the coronavirus, he was coming here in like March or April, and I had it in my calendar, and I was like, maybe I'll go see him. Because I liked a lot of his Babies. There's a bunch of songs like Midnight, like the Babies, Isn't It Time? Which one did you say? Where did your... Isn't It Time? Yeah, Isn't It Time? And then there was another one with time. There was Isn't It Time? And the Babies had several songs, and they had Midnight Rendezvous, and I'm drawing a blank, but there was, I had a few Babies albums on vinyl, and then the album Ignition, the solo album by John Waite, that has Missing You, you know, that song, I think it's the only song on the album that he didn't co-write, and that's the hit and the single. The rest of the album, he co-writes, and it rocks. Like that song fits on it, but you wouldn't believe. And there's a guitarist, Gary, maybe you're familiar with this guy. His name's Gary Myrick. Does anyone know Gary Myrick? He had a song called The Message Is You, and She Talks in Stereo. But, oh my God, wait, it may not be Ignition. That might be the earlier John Waite album. Whatever. The John Waite album, one of them has Change, and it's a great album. And the one with Missing You, it rocks. And Gary Myrick is the lead guitarist on it. And it's just a really good album. Kevin, Journey always annoyed me. It didn't help that they were so overplayed in the Bay Area when I grew up. Yeah. But that earlier stuff was okay. But then after Infinity, that started to get dicey for me. Loving, Touching, Squeezing that made you puke. That's true. Missing You was written about his ex-wife. Change, great song. I was in the Tears video. Tears was a great song. His newest CD, Wooden Heart, is great. Yeah, I almost went and saw him, but I guess it got canceled. I think it's still in my calendar. John Wade often performs at a small bar in New Hope, Pennsylvania. I saw him 3 years ago and had a meet and greet with him. Very nice guy. Yeah, I opened for him, and I have a few pictures with him because he was out in the lobby signing autographs for people and taking pictures with people. So I took a picture with him. Why not? So, yeah, I don't know what that album, No Breaks. No Breaks. B-R-A-K-E-S. No Breaks was the follow-up album. Ignition had changed. That's a good album. There was a song called No More Cool Mr. Wonderful. No more that Mr. Nice. It's a little bit like No More Mr. Nice Guy. No Breaks, exactly. I'm eating my... I have to do this because String Cheese is our sponsor. Albert, what'd you have for dinner tonight? Make me jealous. Okay, and I should make a graphic for this, but does anyone have any silver linings? Anything positive happened recently? Kevin, anything positive happening in LA? What have you been up to since we last spoke? She talks in stereo. Yeah, this other song, The Message Is You, really nice song. Gary Myrick. I noticed that he's Facebook friends with my friend Felicia Michaels. I see him there. I don't think I friended him. But it's kind of interesting. She's a comedian friend that lives in Hollywood. Oh, yeah, you know, I changed some settings. Does it appear that we're in sync? Do I basically seem to be in sync? I changed some settings such that I'm locally recording this in higher quality than I was before, and I'm also sending it out in higher quality. We haven't dropped frames, but the one consequence of this is that the computer gets hot and the fan turns on. And